take a horizontal line means I fix a price, and I look what is quantity demanded and quantity supplied. There's excess demand because the demand is higher. So a smart seller can raise their price and still sell their inventory. So at $3, all of you here, if you were selling at $3, you're the $3 sellers. You see all these people lined up who are willing to buy at $3. You say, kind of like Brett stretching or saying victory, you know, yes, I can earn more profits. I can raise my price. Sellers like higher prices. So you say $350. Maybe one of you says $350, and then the other one, well, I'm selling the same product. I'll also sell $350. So the magic thing here is they raise their price. But look at what happens when they raise their price from $3. DJ, Duke, and Marina come in. There's more people willing to sell at $350. Okay? And then if we have the buyers on the right-hand side, some of you were happy because you got to buy it. Some of you weren't able to buy it. Now, some of you so these people got to buy it at $3 because it was supplied. These people, there wasn't enough supply. Okay? So as we move up in price, some of the people drop out from wanting to buy it. But some of the people who didn't get to buy it now get to buy it. So what I'm doing here is trying to tell a story of if we are at a lower price, say $3, and we think about the what if. We're playing this game, the sellers are smart, they go to $4. The buyers who were buying it before, they're less happy because now they have to pay higher prices. Okay, they're less happy. A few sellers come in, a few buyers leave, but more people get to buy it. So we go from this Q initial to Q after. So more people get to buy it. Okay? But are we done? Is there still excess demand? Yes. There's still excess demand. So this similar thing happens. The sellers are saying, hey, I can still raise my price. I can still raise my price. Something magic happens at this point. There's no longer any excess demand. If the sellers chose to try to raise their price, right? If this were, let's put some numbers like $100 and $5. If they thought about going to $5.50, that'd be a dumb idea. I'm writing dumb here, okay? Because at $5.50, there wasn't anyone lined up to buy it at $5, and now at $5.50, they're not going to be able to sell it anymore because there aren't enough buyers. So $5.50 is done. $3 is done. $5 is the way to make the most money. I'm going to pause if there are any questions, because this is a very important point. So it's like a game where we're running an auction, and people are just trying to test out prices to figure out what works. I had an animation there. I forgot I had an animation. So $3, quantity demand is higher, so the smart seller can raise their price. Everyone's going to join it. Until week 8 or 9, everyone who's selling the good is selling at the same price. So we don't have this seller is selling at $3, that seller is selling at $3.50, that seller is selling at $4. Right? Everyone's going to end up selling at the same price because they're all selling the same good. There's no reason for them to drop to a lower price. If they can sell it at the higher price, they'll sell it at that price. Okay. So suppose the figure to the right represents the market. What would happen if the sellers tried to charge $7? Concept check with your neighbor. It's the thing in reverse. Okay? The thing in reverse. I'm going to leave the room because somehow that makes you talk.
I just fell asleep. I was confused about first. You fell asleep? Yeah. But earlier today.
So if the sellers tried to charge at sorry, if they tried to sell for $7 and they would have enough people trying to buy,
some people are
so
really
raise price until they reach
right, so here,
yeah, but theoretically. So does the line shift?
Still demanded $7.
I'm
So
confused.
this is 5.
Me.
This is 7.
Yeah.
So if that's
Huh?
$5.
They would have excess supply because nobody is willing to buy.
They're not selling
willing to
as
buy
many,
$7
they
because
would
Yeah.
it's expensive for everyone.
Right, but so does that line shift or something?
No. It's just like a point. We're just looking, like, you just draw a line.
Maximize the profit.
Okay, so really the point's just moving higher in the line, but the line's not shifting.
No.
Monopolies are illegal for that.
Correct.
Because there's
So I think that makes sense.
If you need my help, raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll call someone who looks like they need help.
demand. I actually think both this. Do you get it? Yeah.
What's higher?
Or it's a surplus. Yeah, whatever. So look, so this is the easiest way for me to find it. Is supply. Anything above is surplus.
Oh no, it's just admiring the color.
Right, excess supply.
Meyer.
Supply curve. That's the demand. That's exactly what it's competitive. And then this is lower.
Wait, can I see this page?
Oh, yeah, here you are. Here you are.
Right.
Whatever you want.
I don't get what was he saying for the first one.
Oh, okay, I get it. So it's the same increasing.
What was it?
You know what I'm saying?
And what was the reason for that? Oh, because the price dropped. Excess demand.
Okay. I'm feeling central today, so I'm going to ask Lily and Caitlin. Is it Caitlin? Is your name Caitlin? Kaylee? Kaylee, sorry, Kaylee. So Lily and Kaylee, at $7, I'm going to start you off easy. Is there excess supply or excess demand? Excess supply. Okay, good. Helen, William, and Ronnie. Let's suppose this is 20 people want to sell, or 20 units want to get sold, and 5 units want to be bought or demanded, 20 demanded. So there's going to be more excess sellers, excess people wanting to sell. So does everyone get to sell all 20 units? No. Okay, so these are the sellers. They're not all getting to sell. What do you think one of the smart sellers is going to do? Lower their price. Okay, or William. Okay, so Ronnie, at $6, are we done? Is everyone getting to sell everything they want?
No.
No. And notice at $6, I'm going to go to the front row, Stephanie. Comparing $7 and $6, are more people willing to buy?
More people are willing to buy.
Okay, and Gabby and Justin, are all the sellers still willing to sell? Or are there fewer sellers willing to sell at $6 versus
Fewer.
fewer? Because the supply curve is,
Going-
the quantity supplied is less when the price is down. Right? Okay. So it gets lower because some people drop in for the demand curve, some people drop out for the supply curve, and then at some point it exactly matches up. And that's the story. The seller gets to sell, so a smart seller will lower the price and sell first, but then everyone else will too. You can also run this with buyers. The buyers are thinking, hey, there's all these people who are willing to sell it, and they didn't get to sell it, so I'm not one of these people who want it at $7, but I want it at $6. I'm going to ask around, hey, anyone want to sell it for $6? And then you realize, hey, a bunch of people wanted it for $6. So you can run it also with buyers. You just have to figure out what the right story is. For those of you who are story-based learners, you should write a story in your cheat sheet so that you can remember the story. Yeah. William?
Is there, so there's excess supply and shortage in supply. Is there the same thing on the opposite side with demand? Would you call it excess demand and shortage in demand?
The names we use is excess supply and excess demand. Shortage is always excess demand.
Okay.
Like the sellers run out
Okay.
is a shortage. I hate these words because surplus is also consumer surplus and producer surplus. And those are different surpluses. I sometimes will ask you those questions, but I'm not, unless I ask it as a 1-point vocab question to make sure you're paying attention in class, I'm not meaning it to trick you. So if you get confused about surplus, on the exam in a long question, raise your hand. If it's a 1 point multiple choice, I'll probably say, I really want to help you, but I can't. It's just 1 point. Shortage, these things. I don't know. For me, it's definitions, but I know for you, it's your first time. If this is the French language, you know, econ is like French, learning French. Everything's new the first time you see it. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So equilibrium, what the price is $5. There's no excess supply or excess demand. We call this the market equilibrium. So in this model, every buyer buys at the equilibrium price, just to make it crystal clear. So I think this is Daniela's question related to earlier. It's not that some people buy at 7 and then some people buy at 6 and then some people buy at 5. That is a cool thing. We'll talk about in the week 8 or 9. But for now, the model is every buyer buys at the equilibrium price. Every seller gets paid at the equilibrium price when we're in the equilibrium situation. And then units on the demand curve below the price are not purchased, and units on the supply curve above the price are not sold. I know this doesn't make any sense as it's written down there, so just units on the demand curve below the price. Units on the demand curve below the price. So none of these people have a willingness to pay that's high enough. These people don't buy. These people don't buy. These people, I'm not tall enough, these people don't sell. That's the setup. Very simple idea, but extremely powerful. I think a big chunk of economics works in it. So normally I have more chocolate, but I didn't bring any chocolate. I have chocolate today. So consumer surplus and producer surplus, I usually ask for a volunteer, and I'll just tell you what I normally do. I say, what is, if you're selling, I give them the chocolate and say, what's the minimum willingness that you'd accept for this chocolate? So I imagine them wanting to sell it to me. And they usually say something like $1. So that might be someone here, someone with a willingness to accept of $1. And then I might ask them, would you be willing to sell it for 50 cents? And they should say no, because that's below their willingness to accept. And then I say, would you be willing to accept, would you be willing to sell it for $5? And then I take $5 out of my pocket, I give them $5 and say, are you sure you want to do that? And they say yes, because the producer surplus for that person would be $5, what they're getting, minus the willingness to accept it. So graphically what this is, if you like the lollipops phrase, demand supply, price quantity. At that price, we look at all the units that get sold. All of these get sold. All of these, no sell. Okay, no sell. And then we say, how much do they get paid? So let's say $5 or whatever the number is. So this unit has a lollipop that goes this way. This unit has a lollipop that goes this way. And the lollipops are exactly the price received, which is $5, minus the minimum selling price, which is the supply curve. And all of these added up, that area is producer surplus. And similarly, and this was the in-class or before-class quiz, if I add up all the consumer surpluses across all of the units sold, that's going to be colors. I use colors. Okay, that's going to be consumer surplus. And you'll see this on your homework. The formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. You had that on your math quiz. We're not going to do anything with taxes, but if there are taxes, then we have to add them in for total surplus. If we don't have any taxes, then we just add up consumer surplus and producer surplus. So, any questions on this?
So when it's total surplus, that's not including excess supply. That's the different surplus.
Total surplus doesn't include excess supply. I think we're getting to the next thing. I'm not going to do the chocolate. I think I answer yours in 2 slides.
Okay.
So just hold on for a second. So this is just, we're using the ideas of willingness to pay and willingness to accept. We're just adding all of these what I'm calling lollipops here. Summed up all the way to the quantity purchased or sold. We don't go past the quantity purchased or sold. So I think Justin's question is going to be around the price floor and the price ceiling. So if we have a price floor, we can't get to equilibrium. The example of a price floor is we have the intended consequence to help the producers. So higher prices, producers like it. So it's very common in agricultural policy. We say farmers aren't making enough money, so we're going to raise their prices, so we're going to raise the price of corn. So I have a price floor for corn. I always forget this, so I have to remember how to remember price floor. So you think of a floor of a little stick figure standing on the floor, okay? That's a price floor, right? And you can't go beneath the floor. You can only stay above the floor. Supplying the price floor. Okay? So in that case, we would have a situation where there's excess supply, and people want to lower the price, but the government or someone puts a policy in that says you can't lower. In that case, the lowest they can go is that price floor. It can do anything above here. The sellers will just keep on going until they hit their price floor, and then that's the most they can sell. Because that's the most that the buyers are willing to buy. In that case, we say that these are the buyers who get to buy, and these are the sellers who get to sell. And then we draw this as the consumer surplus and producer surplus. And to find the area of a trapezoid, you can draw it, make it a rectangle and a triangle. DJ.
Are there ever like times when the price floor is kind of like below the equilibrium point, and therefore it's almost lower because the wages go up, or you'll have like a demand that's too high and then you won't have enough.
Yeah, you will have that. So I could have a price floor, and DJ's question initially is, what if the price floor is way down here, below the equilibrium point? So I'm going to back up and say, all the prices above the price floor are okay. This is illegal. Illegal below here. So I'm just going to draw a different way. Suppose the demand curve went out a lot, demand 2, and now the equilibrium price is here. Are all the sellers going to be over here? They're not going to be down here at the price floor because all of these prices are okay, and in this situation there's going to be excess demand. So the sellers are going to want to move towards the equilibrium point. So anytime the price floor is below the equilibrium point, it doesn't matter. We call it non-binding, or the rule doesn't apply. And it'll just go to equilibrium. If the price floor is above, it's stopping the price from going down, and then we would call it binding, is the phrase. I think binding is a normal English phrase. If it's not, please write it down. And in an exam, you can raise your hand and say, I don't know what binding means. Okay. Does that answer your question, DJ?
Yeah.
Okay. So the unintended consequence, so we want to help the suppliers, but did we really help them? If we look at it in terms of producer surplus, we had a triangle here that was a little wider, but not as tall as this trapezoid. Imagine if we made the price floor really tall, then very few people would be able to sell. So one of the unintended consequences of a price floor is there's going to be excess supply and a quantity reduction. Okay, and a quantity reduction. And that quantity reduction might actually hurt the suppliers more than it's actually intending to help them. And only in an economic analysis do we get that insight. Politicians will say, we just want a price floor and that's going to help everyone. But it won't help everyone unless you force the buyers to buy it. If we don't force them to buy it, then fewer people are going to want to buy it. We move from quantity equilibrium to quantity with the price floor, which is going to be a little bit. They see Brett?
So how can quantity be reduced while the excess is supply? Will supply be increasing?
So everything you're saying is true. It's just the final step of bringing it together. If we're at a price floor, the price can't go below the price floor. There's going to be excess supply. Sellers want to produce it. It's not that they produce it and they're waiting to sell it in inventory. It's like, do I want to make it? Like, imagine this is cakes. We have a price floor for cakes. And we're thinking like, oh, how many cakes do I make? They're not going to make cakes that no one's going to buy. So only this many people want to buy, this many people are willing to sell. These are all the people who'd be willing to sell, but they don't sell. They don't bake the cake. Because there's less demand. Yeah. Or if we force them to bake it, they would have to throw it away because no one is going to buy it. So then what happens, if you read the book, they say then there becomes a black market of people who like these illegal cakes that are selling for less than the price floor, and then you have to pay people to sneak around cakes and things. There's this little footnote of how do we decide who gets to produce. The only thing, all of you who are shaky and just want to keep going, all of these people want to sell. All of these people up to this unit want to sell. We are saying that only these people get to sell. So if you're shaky, that's all you need to remember. If you're super solid and you want to think about it, is there any guarantee we make sure that all the people who have the lowest cost sell? Not really. So there's a slide hidden in the slide deck about, in fact, it could be even worse than this, because you might have the people who have the highest willingness to accept end up selling it. If you don't understand that, just wipe it from your brain and then move on. Okay, so who gets to buy? Who gets to buy is these people. Who doesn't get to buy is everyone to the right. So this is gets to buy. This is wants to sell, but can't. So this is gets to buy and sell. And these are neither want to buy or sell. And I'm not making anything magic. I'm just saying at that price, I'm just analyzing what is the quantity supplied, what is the quantity demanded. All these people don't want to buy. All these people want to sell. I'm just matching up the sections. What is the selling price? The selling price is the price floor. The buying price is the price floor. It is the same. So when we make the law, the government's not taking a cut and moving money around. That's just what. So price ceiling is the opposite. This is, I like to draw a person with a hard hat, right? And there's a ceiling. Everything here is okay, and they can't go above that. I know it's hokey, but some of you it works, so I draw it. So that's supply, and this is demand, price and quantity. Right? Now we have quantity demanded is higher than quantity supplied at the price ceiling. So normally the forces at work would push it upward, but we made a law saying that we can't have this ceiling. You remember Superstorm Sandy and the gas lines? Like there was actually a law that said you couldn't raise the price of gas above the normal price that you normally sell it. And what that happened was there were a bunch of people who wanted to buy and they weren't able to buy because maybe initially equilibrium was right there, but Superstorm Sandy, the supply curve shifted left. No one could run the trucks in. And then if you say you can't raise your price above the old price, you have this shortage. So anti-gouging laws during Superstorm Sandy. So the intended consequence is that it could protect consumers, keep the price low, but the unintended consequence is it creates rationing or these long lines or other things that mess up the natural workings of the marketplace. I'm not saying this is right or wrong in a moralistic way, but in a surplus way, notice if we let it go to equilibrium, we get more surplus. We get all of everything filled into here. It's different colors. The green will get larger, the yellow will get smaller, but the total surplus will be higher. And so equilibrium is a situation where we have the highest total surplus. And both of these situations, the price ceiling and a price floor, you're going to have lower total surplus, which you will calculate on your homework if you have not already done so. Yeah, William.
In that situation though, wouldn't if they have the ceiling, wouldn't that be because the demand went so high that it wasn't, so that equilibrium wouldn't even, it would be like way up.
Yeah,
like the willingness to pay would be like crazy high.
You could either think of it as you start out with demand here, and then the demand shifted right. Or you can you start out with the supply here, and the supply
Oh,
shifted
so that's
left.
the.
You get to the same type of situation. And what's the other? And the way to tell which is you do your basic question for supply. You ask the suppliers, what are you willing to supply at this price? That will tell you what if supply is shifted. You do the what ifs for supply, sellers, the what ifs for buyers, demand, and then you can figure out what has actually shifted. So Superstorm Sandy probably had both effects. A lot of people wanted to hoard it because they weren't sure when it was coming back, and there were enough trucks to deliver the gasoline. So I think it's a combined effect in that case. Moving on. Oh, this is the extra insight for the quants. This is about who would possibly buy it, and you can read that if you want. Not going to be on an exam. Okay? So now what we're going to do is, finally, we're going to do 8 examples of shifting supply and demand. Somewhere in your yellow sheet, can someone give me the page number? You have a bunch of blank.
30. Yeah,
30.
30.
30, exactly, 30. Okay. We'll do 8 examples of shifting supply and demand, ceteris paribus. So best way to think through it is to pick a point on each curve and think about how that one point shifts. In discussion section, we had you just do this mechanically, but now I'm going to have you do it with words, so it's more analysis and economics. So I'm going to pick on groups of 3 or 4, 2 on supply, 2 on demand. It's okay to punt and say punt or pass, and pass the class, and I'll do that. Okay? Concepts first. Focus on the concept, not just the answer. Focus on the process or the steps that got you there. You know, what causes the shifts, and then what changes the market equilibrium. So, we'll do the first one, vacation package sales. So I'll just draw a few of these. Price quantity. And start just by drawing a supply and demand curve. And suppose we start at equilibrium. The setup of all of these is you start at equilibrium, and then something changes. And now we want to see how the market shifts. So vacation package sales. This is the market for vacation package sales. The income goes up. Okay? So let's go for Helen, Will, and Ronnie. I'm going to ask Ronnie, do you want to do demand or supply? Or do you want to go last?
I'll do demand.
Okay, demand. So if income goes up at the same price, are people going to want to do more units or fewer units or the same?
I say more units.
More units, okay? And she said that very confidently. On the exam, she would get it right. So thinking of a point, the point moves to the right, so there's a shift in there. Okay? So the important part is to the right, to the left, or the same. Or you can go up, down, or the same. You can choose. So picking a point here, Helen and Will. Sellers, are they, if the price is the same, are they want to go to the right or to the left, or the same? The same. Okay. They were a little unsure. Okay. Well, let me ask you. You're a seller. Before, so suppose Danielle is a seller and she's selling a vacation package for $300. Suddenly, more people want to buy it. She's happier. She might get to sell it for more, but does her willingness to accept change? No. So with that story, if you're shaky, that story makes it not shaky anymore. That story says, if the price didn't change, my willingness to accept for that unit doesn't change. So exactly right. So we'll say this is the same as prime. I'm going to use primes for the other ones. I sometimes use 1 and 2 or 0 and 1. I'm just going to use prime today. Okay? So what is the new equilibrium? Caleb, what is the new equilibrium? Tell me which way to move.
To move right or right and up.
Right and up, okay? So here, okay? So we have our old price and quantity. Let's just Q star, P star. And then we have our new. I'll do P star prime and Q star prime. So the quantity has gone up and the price has gone up. So it's very easy to go circular and think your way into something else. It's very easy to say, oh, well, the quantity goes up, but on a demand curve, when quantity goes up, the price goes down. So the price has got to go down for everything to go up. And then you get really confused, and I have to take off. So slow down. Slow down. Those of you who come to my office hours, I constantly tell you, slow down. Ask the question, 1 point on the demand curve, does it change? 1 point on the supply curve, does it change? And then just use the step. And then say, ah,